Mataconda77 very generously gave me a year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon and brings you today's video. Sheoldred the Apocalypse versus Atraxa, Gishath and Lathiel. That's a pretty damn good hand if we can keep the Cabal coffers, so I think we keep that one. Gishath goes first. We just see a couple of tap lands here and drawing 2 Dorothy Voidwalker. I'm not necessarily interested in getting that out on turn 2. I think I'll go for Vamp Tutor onto Howling Mine. Don't think there's any harm in getting down Howling Mine on turn 2. Soul's Attendant from the Lathiel. Just thinking actually the Dorothy Voidwalker goes particularly well with the Memory Jar, because they'll have to discard their hand at the end of the turn. Does mean we'll have to stick Memory Jar down for a turn cycle and hope that it sticks though, so getting Dorothy Voidwalker down on turn 3 as it stands now is probably going to be a good idea. Sets us up for that Memory Jar interaction. Dimir Signet from Atraxa. We will go for the Vamp Tutor then for that Howling Mine. Play the Howling Mine we just drew into. Everyone will draw an additional card on their turns. Lightning Greaves for Lathiel. Gishath plays an Explore, so draws a card and can make an additional land this turn. Takes them down to 7 in hand. And then destroying the Lightning Greaves with a Broken Bond. Not playing an additional land with that though. Another Signet in Golgari's Signet, and they do get into a white mana. That's a bounce land. And now drawing into Lich's Mastery, which goes infinite with our commander. Be nice to see another swamp here so that we can start making mana with the Cabal coffers. Lightning Greaves isn't the worst. Are we going to go for our commander next turn? Now that we've got the Lightning Greaves I might, although our opponents can always respond to it. Yeah, let's just set up with the Lightning Greaves. Our opponents don't seem to be discarding thanks to the Howling Mine, so we'll just assume that they're going to continue to not discard into what would be a Dorothy Voidwalker. Farseek for Lathiel, and then throwing out a Temple of Plenty, a Scryland, and deciding to put that on top so they do like whatever it is that they drew into. The 1-1 as punishment for the Lightning Greaves swings in at Gishath. Seeing a Wandering Archaic this time from Gishath, wasn't expecting that. Throwing down Evolution Sage before the Atraxa, the Soul's Attendant continuing to gain life over there. Could be that there's counter magic being held up, although they did tap down 2 of their blue mana. Managed to get into our other Cabal land as well as a swamp, so yeah, we get down as many swamps as possible before Cabal coffers. Yeah, let's risk our commander. We've got the Damnation in hand, so if our opponents get too far ahead of us, we can always try for that. The Atraxa player did have priority held up there, so might not let us go for Lightning Greaves. Yeah, they've got something for us. That is an Abzan Charm, exile a creature with power 3 or greater. And the Wandering Archaic is going to be able to get something here. Don't know if they'll be able to choose new modes for that. Don't think they can actually. So yeah, they might get their own Evolution Sage exiled here. Did they just choose their own Wandering Archaic? Well, it says that the copy's going at Sheoldred now and the original's going at the Wandering Archaic. I think the dinosaur player might have targeted his own creature with that. Anyway, got some removal out of our opponent's hand at least, but that's not ideal. Yeah, did target his own Wandering Archaic for some reason. Should have gone for the Evolution Sage, obviously. Hardened Scales, and Lathiel might come down this turn. So there we see it, Lathiel, and they gain a life straight away, which means some more plus counters for them. And then Soul's Attendant swings in towards Gishath. 2 plus counters go onto the Soul's Attendant, making that a 3-3. Colossal Majesty from the dinosaur player this time. Would have started drawing them cards if they still had this in play. And then casting a 4 Wanderings, getting closer and closer to their commander, so might be that it's worth us going for the Damnation before getting down our commander. A Sol Ring from Atraxa, still 7 cards in hand over there. And a Sorin Markov. Be interesting to see who they direct the minus at here. I dare say they're going to make someone's life total 10. No, instead deciding to drain the Lathiel, so that will go down. Don't think Lathiel can put plus counters on itself. Yeah, it's other target creatures, so it couldn't have buffed itself there anyway. Then a Flooded Strand comes into play, and they'll be able to proliferate twice onto the Sorin Markov, so they can control someone during their next turn if we allow that to minus down. Our commander has 5 toughness, so with haste we could deal some damage to that. This does assume that they can't hold up a swords or something. And they decide to just put in a Hallowed Fountain tapped. So maybe it is a good idea to go for our commander then. Whilst everyone is shields down, we can do a lot of damage even if Gishath comes into play with a memory jar. Drawing into a prismatic vista, we drop the Cabal Coffers here, then we can make 6 mana. And then even if our opponent blocks with the Evolution Sage, the 3/3 can swing in towards the Sorin anyway. So let's go towards the Sorin before they take over. Hopefully not our turn. There are some talks going on in the chat, so we'll see if this player tries to gain the favour of the Lathiel. Wouldn't have thought so because they just blew up their commander, so should be that the Soul Sister goes in towards Sorin. I'm going to start hurting our opponents now. They'll lose 4 life every turn, as long as they only draw 2 cards. Lathiel shouldn't care too much about that with the life that's being gained. Heliod the Sun Crown goes particularly well with all the little pings of life gain. And then getting down a land that will gain 2 life, put a plus counter onto the Soul's Attendant. And then they can give this life gain as well if they want to. And just for going, swinging in at Sorin Markov at all, that is a generous gift over there. So a creature enters in the elephant token, gaining a life from Soul's Attendant, and that is bumped up to a 7/7. And now swinging in towards us now that we've landed our commander. Probably going to be taking a big whack from Gishath as well, unfortunately. Alright, not getting down there, commander. Garrick's pack leader, wanting to draw even more cards apparently. Ungrateful. Now my worry here is if we've seen a Planeswalker already, it might be a Super Friends build of Atraxa, and that means multiple board wipes, like up to 10 in the deck, which would be really annoying to play against. Well, we can assume that there's no board wiping coming because they play their Atraxa, triggering Heliod and the Soul Sister again. And it looks like they're tapping down their blue mana. And then deciding to untap one, that is Ashiok Dreamrender, so we're not going to be able to search libraries now, which we'll have to remember with the Prismatic Vista, exiling all the graveyards and milling us. Noteworthy that they pointed the mill over at the Celestia player here, so maybe not looking in our direction. And it's just a -1 on Ashiok, so as long as the Atraxa stays out, they'll be able to do this indefinitely. Oh, and then actually proliferating onto the Soul's Attendant, so that's a 13/13 now. Alright, managing to draw into a swamp anyway, that's good. Gain some somewhat needed life here. And draw a Reliquary Tower as well, so drop as many swamps as we can into Cabal Coffers. Tap that down for 5 mana. And I think we can try the Memory Jar here. If we don't land the Memory Jar, I'll actually go Signing Blood on myself as opposed to the Dorothy Voidwalker. Priority being held up by the Planeswalkers player again. Alright, and they allow that down, so let's go for Dorothy Voidwalker. Soul's Attendant, a 15/15 now. Going to put Lightning Greaves on Dorothy Voidwalker because we do want it to have haste. If we force our opponents to discard a bunch of cards, then we're going to want to take advantage of the fact that we can steal something really good with the Voidwalker. Obviously can't do that without haste. So now, continuing to pause over here, might be considering spot removal, allowing the Shroud and Haste on there. Tuskar Captain, anything with a plus counter gets Trample. Weren't going to block this Soul's Attendant anyway, I assume it's swinging in towards us. We can gain a decent chunk of life with Memory Jar, effectively cancelling that out mostly. Okay, now it's Path to Exile going on to the Sheoldred. Noteworthy that there is a Gavany Township here as well. So, crack the Memory Jar here. See if any of our opponents have spot removal for Sheoldred to put on the stack. Looks like they do. Okay, Simic Charm that is. Return a creature to its owner's hand. They decide on the Tuskar Captain, wanting us to get hit by the Soul's Attendant, I imagine. So a massive amount of Sheoldreds going on the stack. Our opponents will lose a bunch of life and we'll gain 14 here from drawing 7 cards. Noteworthy we did draw into a Defile there, but don't have enough swamps to get rid of the Soul's Attendant. And now seeing an Inscription of Abundance here. Target player gains X, where X is the greatest power. So targeting themselves with that. Worth pointing out that we could just go for their Path to Exile with the Dorothy Voidwalker onto the Soul's Attendant. Yeah, because they are about to exile this thing. But I think it's worth seeing what they discard from all these cards that they can't do anything with. Might be able to get into double mana or something like that. There's 3 green creatures that we're up against. So unfortunately have to let the Sheoldred go, but we will search for a land. And then the Soul Sister obviously going to swing in at us. We're at 49 life, so we'll go down to 30. And they can't give it lifelink because they used the Inscription of Abundance previously. So seeing as how we're not going to be doing anything else and we're going to discard the Defile, might as well go after the Atraxa here. And now's the interesting bit. Memory Jar going to get everyone to discard their hands, and all that stuff will be exiled thanks to the Void Walker. So that was just a bunch of lands from the Celestia player, apart from a Scavenging Ooze, so I actually did them a favour there. A Beast Whisperer, Drover of the Mighty, Knight of the Stampede, Death Gorger Scavenger, and some more lands. Not doing too well here. Birds of Paradise, Elspeth Sun's Champion, that's good. A Negate, some lands, and a Liliana Dreadhorde General, so it's between two of my favourite Planeswalkers there. Anyway, Colossal Majesty going to trigger at the beginning of Gishath's turn, because they do control a creature with power 4 or greater, so drawing a card here. Thankfully for them, not with Sheoldred in play. So depending on what our opponents do here, I'm expecting a Gishath sometime soon. It will be Damnation after we've gone for a Planeswalker with Dorothy Voidwalker. Okay, continuing to ramp, that's a Gilded Lotus. And then a Forerunner of the Empire. Whenever a dinosaur enters under your control, you may have it deal 1 damage to each creature. So we're going to have to be wary of that. It's really for triggering Ferocious, I think it's called. But if we get down any 1-drops, i.e. from an Elspeth, then we'll have to be wary of that, like I said. The 4/4 swings in towards Ashiok, so they can just chump block with an elephant here if they want to. And that's exactly what they do. Ashiok pointed at us, they're going to mill us and exile everyone's stuff here. Managing to mill away from us a Swiftfoot Boots, a couple of lands, and a Dark Deal. That's a good one for them to get rid of. Okay, and continuing to hold back, so are we just assuming that they've got a Cyclonic Rift held up here? Draw into Burnished Heart and an Underworld Dreams this time. Throw down the Cabal Stronghold, have to remember not to play the Prismatic Vista. And then if our opponent's going to get down the Gishath, and yeah, we're in a tricky spot with regards to the Planeswalker here. If our opponent gets down the Gishath, they can just trample straight through any tokens that we make. But I don't want to play out my Planeswalker and then just wipe it again with a Damnation, so that means we have to crack the Dorothy Voidwalker before we go for the Damnation. Why don't we see... I'd rather play Sign in Blood with our commander in play as well. Alright, we'll sack the Dorothy Voidwalker here. If they've got Cyclonic Rift, then we are giving the Planeswalker back to them, unfortunately. But we'll go for Liliana, it will cantrip at least if the Gishath swings in towards us. And I imagine our opponents want to remove the commander as well, Sheoldred. So there is the Liliana. We are going to risk not getting a token here, because I'm going to pass priority when we go for the Damnation. Literally doing this just to get rid of the 21/21 that will be swinging in towards us. Once again, this player holding up priority, allowing the board to get Wrath though. So now we can plus on Liliana, add 6 mana with the Cabal Stronghold. And I think instead of just playing Sheoldred into what's clearly some interaction here, they've got 5 cards in hand, I think we go Burnished Heart. Might as well ramp and draw with the Burnished Heart. So we'll play the Underworld Dreams, and then it's Lightning Greaves onto Burnished Heart. Might as well tap it before we sacrifice it, swing in towards the Ashiok. And then I suppose we can wait on this inevitable Cyclonic Rift, once again pausing on our end step. Underworld Dreams triggering for the first time from the Howling Mine. So every time they draw a card here, they're going to lose 1 life. Not that Lathiel matters. Having said that, Lathiel's still at 46 life here. And there's an Aetherflux Reservoir, teetering dangerously close. Ajani's Pridemate will gain them some life from the reservoir, which puts them at 48. If they've got a 1 mana spell, they can lose most of their life and take someone out here. Wouldn't be a wise move though, I wouldn't have thought. Well, they do have one, the Ozolith. So going up to 51, they'll obviously be at 1 life if they decide to activate this thing. And now seeing something from Atraxa, Putrefy, going straight onto that thing. So thankfully, Aetherflux Reservoir goes down straight away. Noteworthy that they've still got 7 mana held up over here, 4 cards in hand. Elemental Bond continuing to set up there. They have 6, 7, 8. They've still got enough for their commander if they want to. So finally seeing Gishath Sun's Avatar hit play. Okay, that's a surprise. The Gishath swings in towards the 6/6. I thought that was the last player they'd swing in at. Just grateful it's not us though. As it happens, I don't think they'll block here, and they don't. Landing commander damage is relevant against a lifelink player though. Gishath dealing the full 7 points of damage could gain a lot of dinosaurs here. Okay, just gains the 1. That keeps our minus from Liliana relevant. Quartzwood Crasher is the creature they got into. Elemental Bond continuing to chip away at them thanks to the Underworld Dreams. And now we'll see if there is a Cyclonic Rift from this player or not. They're going for something. Yep. So we crack the Burnished Heart. Draw a card to that because it is a creature dying. Going to give them back their Liliana unfortunately, but we knew the risk. Okay, Teferi's Puzzle Box. Not sure if we're going to be able to land our commander and a Teferi's Puzzle Box, unfortunately. Oh, and of course, completely, I always do this at least once. Yeah, the Ashiok Dream Render. We actually can't search our library, can we? I think I mentioned the Prismatic Vista since playing the Burnished Heart as well. Anyway, the Ozolith triggers, but it's not in play, so it doesn't matter. Jason Raveler of Secrets into play. Going for Scry 1 and draw with that. And then replaying the Atraxa, once again minusing down towards us on Ashiok, so gets rid of Animate Dead would be useless anyway, and then some lands. Wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing if we managed to get into another swamp. And what's the limit break on this? -8. So we've got a little bit of time to try and get rid of that. Holding up a white mana, so could have a Swords or a Path. And managed to draw into Urborg, so of all the lands, that's probably the best one that we could have drawn into. Definitely play that. Cabal Coffers tapping for 9 mana, definitely get down the Lightning Greaves, and we will try our commander once again. I remember during spoiler season, people were saying that Sheoldred isn't all that good, and they're actually quite disappointed with it, and I think everyone's actually discovered how good it really is now. People seem to be pretty scared of it. Managing to land the Lightning Greaves is really good, so we want to draw with the Signing Blood first, I think. Or do we just want Puzzle Box and Howling Mine? Yeah, I think that's alright. So drop the Howling Mine with that floating 2 mana. And then we will... yeah, it would be nice to go in towards a Planeswalker, but unfortunately not going to be able to do that. So we'll swing in and deal some commander damage to our life gain friend over there. Atraxa does have Death Touch, that's what's keeping us away from it. Do have means of destroying Planeswalkers and obviously creatures in a mono black deck, but obviously need to draw into it first. After the attack, play the Teferi's Puzzle Box and we'll start dealing a nice chunk of damage to everyone now. Full grip here, and a full grip from our dinosaur friend over here as well. So Sheoldred on the stack first, then Teferi's Puzzle Box. Will let them draw with the Howling Mine before they shuffle with the Teferi's Puzzle Box because it means more damage. So they're at 10 cards in hand now after the Howling Mine, which means they shuffle 10 cards around with Teferi's Puzzle Box and they'll be dealt 20 damage. So they shuffle the 10 cards around with the Teferi's Puzzle Box, draw into 10, and they'll lose 20 life here to the Sheoldred. Does mean that the dinosaur player's going down next turn as it stands now. Don't think it's worthwhile keeping them in play because they'll probably punish us for any removal that they get into. Maybe before they're taken out actually. Don't think they'll help us out against the Atraxa player. Suture Priest into play from Lathiel, and they get down a bounce land, followed by a Dawn of Hope. And following that up with Kodama's Reach, that does put a card in their hand at least. So we do stand to get rid of this player next turn. Same again, Teferi's Puzzle Box on the stack before the Howling Mine, so that they will shuffle even more cards around. I don't think it really matters here. They see the writing on the wall and just decide to scoop. Yeah, I don't see what they could have got into there apart from like Teferi's Protection or something like that. I don't know if Teferi's Protection even works there, but maybe should have drawn the cards there. Probably right to scoop. Now, giving the player that has lots of interaction in hand, lots of card draw isn't a particularly wise move, but we do need to do it in this deck. It is a draw pain deck after all. See if they want to do anything to us before shuffling. They've got 6 cards in hand. Nope, allowing that to resolve, so a bunch of Sheoldred triggers going on the stack. They plummet down to 7, so I'm hoping with another turn cycle we can get them with our commander. And we did just manage to get rid of the Dreadhorde General, so they can't play that out and minus it down. Vraska is targeted removal, I think, artifact, creature or enchantment, so could get rid of the Lightning Greaves and then our commander. So that's what they're doing apparently. Not going to be able to play the Underworld Dreams most likely next turn, unfortunately. We did lose one of our draw pain effects previously as well. The Fate Unraveller, that is in exile. Scry 1 and draw from Jace, Unraveller of Secrets, will lose them even more life. They are going to be able to gain 4 life from the Atraxa, that does have lifelink. Again, targeting us with the mill. So it's Horn of Greed, a couple of lands and an expedition map, which would have been fairly useless to us. Astral Cornucopia, just coming down as a 3 mana rock that taps down for 1. Obviously with Atraxa you proliferate onto this and make more mana as the turns progress. And Field of the Dead into play. Triggers the Suture Priest, and they will lose a life to that. So it may well be that the Super Friends player didn't get into any spot removal. Atraxa swinging in towards us for some life gain will put us on 4 commander damage. They go up to 8 life with that. So we'll do some shuffling around of our own. Sheoldred on the stack. I will put Howling Mine on the stack here because I'm not particularly worried about shuffling away any of the cards in hand. I wouldn't like to draw into a card that I'm about to shuffle away and wish I hadn't shuffled it away. So Teferi's Puzzle Box first, and we will shuffle around 6 cards. So we're allowed to do that here. It's looking like we're going to be winning this one. Draw ourselves into Bubbling Muck, Damnable Pact, a Demonic Tutor, a couple of lands and a Wound Reflection. And then drawing into a Veto as well. So, see if we can do a bunch of damage to our opponents this turn. Bubbling Muck first of all. Makes each of our swamps tap for 2 mana, so tap that down into Cabal Coffers, makes 11 mana. Throw out the Veto. Might be that Atraxa has counter magic once again because they are holding on to priority. Suture Priest loses us a life. Then we'll drop the Wound Reflection. And then 7 mana into X on Damnable Pact will be fine. We want to hold up some mana for the Demonic Tutor to refill our hand with, just in case this gets countered. Point it at ourselves. Could take out a player with this, but I'd rather refill my hand just in case there is some shenanigans from our opponents. Also, of course, if the Veto and the Sheoldred both stay in play here, then we'll gain a bunch of life, and Veto will drain all of our opponents when we gain life from the Sheoldred, so yeah, this should work out okay for us here, I hope. Alright, and that does manage to land, so draw into a bunch of good stuff here. Definitely going to get rid of the 4-colour player here. And looks like they might have something in response. Also, just mentioned the Demonic Tutor again, didn't I? But forgetting about that Ashiok again. So actually can't go for Demonic Tutor. Our opponent is getting double mana here as well. Whenever they tap a swamp for mana, they make a black mana. And all of the lands in play are swamps, thanks to the Urborg. Can be a little bit of a nombo, or at least work against you, Bubbling Muck. So that is Anguished Unmaking. On to the Sheoldred. Well, we've still got these triggers on the stack, so we can still get rid of this player, because it will still trigger the Veto whenever we gain life. So our opponent could have done something about all this, but decided to wait on the Anguished Unmaking, unfortunately. And then Teferi's Protection, okay. So helping them out with the Bubbling Muck there, I think. Alright, they decide to scoop there, they lose to the Wound Reflection anyway. Yeah, best passing through the turn here, I think, because they've got mana floating here. Our commander now costs 10 mana, so we're best going after that, I think. Take advantage of the Bubbling Muck. Our commander entering play once again. Get rid of the 2 fetches because we can't use them anyway. Or we could use them, we could put them into play and tap them for mana, but can't search with them is what I mean. So it's Sheoldred on the stack again. Teferi's Puzzle Box on the stack first, as we keep saying. So we give them a chance to do something here. They draw a card before the Teferi's Puzzle Box. They're at 3 life. And they've had plenty of interaction in this deck. Alright, but don't get into anything, so managing to get them down to -1 before all the triggers resolve there. Big thank you to my opponents, they all played that out there, and it was a very interactive game, especially from the 5-colour or 4-colour player in Atraxa. Probably one of the best games I've got with Sheoldred the Apocalypse, the only trouble being that, like I said, people have discovered her now, so she's really difficult to keep in play. But we all understand why. We've seen what she can do here with only a few cards in play. Paired with those, she can do a hell of a lot of damage in no time flat, so Anyway, hopefully you all enjoyed this visit to Sheoldred the Apocalypse. Be sure to leave it a thumbs up and a comment if you did enjoy the video. That really helps with YouTube's algorithms, and it will hopefully push the video to other potential viewers and subscribers. Huge thank you to the patrons as ever. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.